I was looking for a Father's Day sermon, and to be honest with you, I am terrible at doing, holidays, special days, and so what I did this week is I just, as I was looking through my Bible, and as I'm scrolling through my iPhone, my Bible app, and at work, I'm listening to sermons, I ran across something that I believe might be one of the greatest messages that not just a father, but anybody in the church could be able to hear. And this message is not a message that I think that the fathers could walk out and say, hey, that was me, you hit me. I think that every person, if you look at it, you can walk out of here with a purpose. I believe that every single one of us could walk out of here and really feel like that if we take this message, what I'm getting ready to preach, if we take this very, very, very personal, we could walk out of here and we could say, God done something in me today. Amen? Because I'm going to tell you, when we do Mother's Day sermons, generally, we, have them all stand up and we clap and we, just try to give them a little bright gift of some sort. The children are back there making stuff for them. And then when we get to the men, usually we punch the men in the face with our sermons. Right? Y'all sat through enough of them. You know what I'm talking about. Generally, it's the man who gets slapped upside his head. You're not doing enough. You ain't committed enough. You're not working enough. You're not, just running for the Lord enough. And generally, the men walk out on Father's Day feeling as if they just got beat. But that is not what today's message is all about. Today's message is about making a choice, going out with a purpose. Amen? And this week, as I was reading in Joshua, many times I see and it's even in my house. I'm sure many of you maybe even have this plaque in your house. As for me and my house, we will what? Serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And not only do I have it in my house, I've seen it in some of your all's houses. And so I wanted to go and get the whole backstory of the message of Joshua. For one, why did he say it? For two, who was he talking to? And what was the importance of him making a very, very, very bold statement to the people that he was now in charge of, that Moses used to have? So I started looking at this, and if we can start out in Joshua 24, verses 1 and 2, Joshua gathered all the tribes in Israel to Shechem. Now I want you to remember the name Shechem. And summoned the elders, the heads, the judges, and all the officers of Israel. And they presented themselves before God, and Joshua said to all the people, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, long ago your fathers," and I want to stop right there for a second. Because there's a reason, one of the things I felt like when I read this is God was saying, do you know the importance of Shechem? Go find out the importance of this location. So then the only thing you can do is get on Google and Google the word Shechem in the Bible. And you're not going to believe what I found. This is unbelievable. In Genesis chapter 12, verses 6 and 7, let me read it to you. Abraham, this is when God all started, every single bit of it, with God's people, right? So Abraham passed through the land to the place of Shechem. Shechem, same exact place Joshua was at. The same exact place Joshua just called all the people to. The same exact place that Joshua is getting ready to make a big, big, bold statement. This exact same place. But what many of you don't know is when you read your Bible, you think it happened like, well, maybe Abraham was there yesterday, or maybe Abraham was there a month ago, or maybe even 5 years ago. No. Abraham was there 500 years before Joshua ever called them there. 500 years had passed from the time that Abraham was in Shechem to up until the time where Joshua said, I want all the leaders, all the elders, everybody, I want you to come. Everybody travel to Shechem. I've got something to say. 500 years. Now, 500 years before, check out this. To the oak of Moreh, at the time the Canaanites were in the land. Now, the Canaanites were in the land, the same land that God had promised when the people come out of Egypt in slavery. Then they wandered around the wilderness for 40 years for no absolute reason other than disobedience. But this land wasn't theirs yet. But Joshua, at the time that he called them to Shechem, they had already occupied the land. They done went in and did what God said to do. I mean, everybody else had died off. Joshua took them into the promised land. They're already there. Okay, so listen to this. At the time, the Canaanites were in the land. Now, this is Abraham. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land. So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. So there's an importance to Shechem. There's an importance that I'm sure, maybe it's not documented down right now, but I guarantee you, if Joshua is leading the people, he knew the Scriptures. Why? Because, listen, he was a leader to the founder. Joshua had been passed down to someone who was the founder of bringing the people out of Egypt. I mean, he came down from the founder who wrote the law. He knew what the Bible said. He knew that the importance of this place had special meaning. And he was getting ready to say some bold stuff. And what he says, long ago your fathers, and I'm not going to read it, I'm going to give you an outline. I'm just going to give you a real quick outline. Joshua, when he calls them all together and he starts speaking to them, he says, I'm going to take you back to the very beginning when Abraham was there. Not only did Abraham cross through and God made provision for him. No, that didn't just happen. Then, the children split off, and then eventually they ended up in slavery in Egypt. This is what Joshua tells them. They ended up in slavery in Egypt, and then God even went and got them. And God even made provision for them, that they came out and He split the Red Sea and He blinded, the armies of the Egyptians, and God made provision for them. When they were in need, God made provision for them. And here we stand in the Promised Land, and we are eating stuff that we didn't cultivate. We are getting blessings that we didn't cultivate. We are getting blessings from the things that's in this land that we did not initiate. That's what He said. Could you imagine being Joshua in this moment? You're standing in a place that 500 years later that there was a promise made, that there was an altar built, and you knew it, and you're calling everybody there to lay basically the gauntlet down of who God is in your life, who God needs to be in the people that you're leading's life. I just want you to think about this for 1 second. What Joshua was really saying in this moment is that God was then, God is now, and God will forever be if you'll let Him. If you'll let Him. I'm sitting here telling you at Revive today, God was then, God is now, but God will only be the center of your life if you choose to let Him be there. And that's exactly what Joshua was doing. But can I tell you how hard it is to be a leader in those days? Can I tell you that a leader has to make choices? A leader has to lead. Not only is it hard, it's hard enough to be a leader of something maybe you started or something you fell into. But like I said before, to be Joshua, to be the leader of a founding father, a founding person that had started it all, this was a big deal. A lot was riding on his shoulders. And what I believe is he was in the toughest position of his life. The toughest position in the planet is ever to be a leader to the founder who was a legend. Amen? Amen? Moses was a legend, folks. Moses wasn't no joke. Moses was the same guy that said, no, I'm not going to go. But once he went, everything changed. This cat could throw a staff on the ground and it turned into a snake, pick it back up and turn back into a staff. This cat right here would walk up to the Red Sea and literally lay it on the ground and split the Red Sea. Yes, it's God doing it, but God orchestrated it through him. He would walk them boldly, man, right through. No problem. Let's go. We're going this way. Every time the people complained, Moses took care of it. And here Joshua's in this spot where he sees things going, what I believe to be awry, and someone has to lead. Do you know that someone has to lead the family? If the husbands won't do it, the wives will. Amen? If the husbands won't do it, the wives will. It don't make it right, whatever. I'm just giving you a fact. When I grew up in the house, I remember many times when I was a kid, this was hilarious, but I remember as a kid, when my mom would get sick and tired of being sick and tired, she would say, there's a family meeting tonight. Oh, I hated family meetings because I knew that the leader of the house was getting ready to lay down some rules I probably didn't like. And every time that me and my brothers and sisters, every time she would call a family meeting, we were usually top high priority of what was getting ready to change. And she would always say, all throughout the day, she would let us know, there's going to be some change around here. It's coming. It's going to be some change. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I used to say, oh gosh, the next 2 weeks are going to be horrible. Because I knew that whatever change went in place, it would only last about 2 weeks. I had to give her time to chill out. But for 2 weeks, it was miserable. And usually it would start off with, on Monday, Jody, you're doing the dishes. Earl, Tuesday, you got the dishes. On Wednesday, you got the dishes, and you got the dishes. And we did foster care, so we always had 6 or 7, and she'd split it out. One day. If you don't wash them right, I promise you, I'll pull every one of them out of the, and she has done that. Pulled every single dish we had in the entire house, outside, on the table, wash them again. Every time, and I'll be like, oh no, the leader has come out. Amen. The leader has spoken. And when the leader said you did it, you did it. Why? Because if you didn't do what the leader was requesting, there was going to be a penalty. Now, you ain't going to like the penalty. You ain't going out to play. You're not going out to do nothing. You can stay in your room. You can sit at the kitchen table. It doesn't matter. But you're going to follow the rules in this house. You know how many people today ain't leading no house? You know how many people today, kids are out running around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, just roaming the streets? Do you know how many kids today have got parents just as friends? I just want to be their friend. I'm your BFF. I'm your best friend. You know, and when they get 18, 19 like Autumn is, that's okay. When they get 21 like EJ is, that's okay. But when they're 8 years old deciding if they want to come to church, your family's got a problem, honey. Well, I don't want to go to church. I'm tired. Well, it's okay. They're tired today. No, you drag them up out of bed. I saw somebody wrote, this ain't something original, but somebody wrote, I had a drug problem when I was little. I got drugged to church on Sunday morning, I got drugged to church on Sunday night, and I got drugged to church on Wednesday night. Make a decision. Make a choice. And so that's where Joshua had saw the people kind of falling into some things that I believe the American church has fell into. I believe that whether we call to God or whether we don't call to God, there are some things that we serve as foreign gods in our life. And this is what Joshua told the people then, and this is what I'm telling the people today. I want you to listen to this. Verse 24, starting at 14. Now therefore, fear the Lord, and serve Him in sincerity and faithfulness. Put away the gods that your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. And if it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your fathers served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Now that's what he was saying. And he was hoping that that's what they was going to agree to. Now listen to this. This is pretty cool because they agreed with him. Listen to this. Then the people answered, far be it from us, listen to this, that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods. For it is the Lord our God who brought us and our fathers up from the land of Egypt out of the house of slavery, and who did these great signs in our sight and preserved us in all the way that we went. And among all the peoples through whom we passed, the Lord drove out before us all these peoples and the Amorites who lived in the land. Therefore we also will serve the Lord, for He is our God. So see, Joshua makes a statement that this is what my house is going to stand for. The people say, well, this is what we're going to stand for. But listen, Joshua kind of calls them out on this. Listen to this. But Joshua said to the people, you are not able to serve the Lord, for He is a holy God. He is a jealous God, and He will not forgive your transgressions or your sins. Well, that's a big, bold statement right there in the Bible. Big, bold statement when we think that we can do whatever we want, that we can just walk however we want, and it's not a big deal. No. This right here says you better get your act in order right here. But listen, he goes on, and what he was talking about, listen to this. If you forsake the Lord and serve foreign gods, then He will turn, listen to this, and do harm and consume you, and having done you good. after having done you good. And the people said to Joshua, no, but we will serve the Lord. Then Joshua said to the people, you are witnesses against yourselves that you have chosen the Lord to serve him. And they said, we are witnesses. And I'm just going to stop right there because that's enough. So what Joshua did, Joshua made a bold statement. The people said, we want to go with that bold statement. Over here, Joshua says, no. Be careful what you're saying because you can't serve any other God. And they says, no, we don't want to serve any other God. And Joshua says, okay, if you're saying you don't want to serve any other God, then you're going to be a witness against yourself. Do you know what that means to me, folks? Do you know what I feel like God was showing me this week? God says, Earl, do you know how many people come into church every single week that call themselves Christians that by witnessing have declared that they are following God, have declared who their God is, but go out on Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, and they serve other gods, and another God can be anything that you put before your real God. And what Joshua is trying to tell the people is that if you are a witness, I promise you, you don't want to say you serve the God and then go serve a bunch of other foreign gods because it's not going to play out good. It's not going to come good. Now, I'm trying to think, like, what is the boldness about? What is the reason for the boldness? Why are you making such a statement? Because that meant, like a family meeting, there's going to be some change up around this place. There's going to be some change. Well, one of the things is I think that Joshua saw it going south on him. That Joshua had led the people into the promised land. That God had did every single thing that God said he was going to do. But then what happened is he started seeing them serve and worship foreign gods and other gods. And he's saying, no, this ain't right. And even if you don't like it, it still ain't right. And I really believe that what he said is he said, I don't want to just leave a mark on my time as a leader. I want to leave a legacy. That when I'm gone, people are still going to serve God. And I want to make it known at an old age, this is the right way to go. That I'm going to leave a legacy, not just a mark. And folks, I'm going to tell you, Joshua had good reason to be saying what Joshua was saying. Because if you read right down here in Joshua 24, verse 29, it says, after these things, Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died, being 110 years old. Joshua, I want you to think every time that you hang that sign in your house, and I want to look at it every time I see that sign hung in my house, this was a eulogy of someone going out. They wrote their own eulogy. Nobody had to write it for them. What Joshua was saying is that I know that I'm going to the end of my time, but when I go, listen, you're going to be a witness against yourself. But as for me and my house, we served the Lord. As for me and my house, we stood for something. As for me and my house, the children didn't run the house. God ran the house. As for me and my children, this is the way it's going to be. That when God says it, it's true. When God wants it, it's going to happen. And I'm going to be obedient enough that I'm going to follow him. That when I'm not doing what I should be doing, there's going to be some change. And that can only be initiated through people who are leading the house. Leading the house. Can I tell you some points I want to tell you today? What you cultivate will grow. What you cultivate in your house will grow. You cultivate your children not knowing God, truly knowing God, and it's going to grow. I promise. You cultivate the children and nowadays that are sitting in school, and we don't even get mad about it anymore. Well, they're down there teaching Islam in school, and nobody ain't standing up raising a big war. Folks, the high schools, the public schools, the colleges, all are filled with professors that say it's just a big myth. And we're going to teach it all to make everybody happy. I kind of feel like Joshua would lose his gills down at the public school, even if it meant he got fired. If it meant that they were going against his God. I believe that David, just like he took out Goliath, do you know why David fought Goliath? Not because he was causing a big problem for the Israelite army. David saw him talk about his God. And David said, I'll fight him because you ain't talking about my God like that. You ain't going to run my God down like that. Where are the leaders at? Where are the leaders at when they start doing things that's against God? Where are the town meetings where you're calling the judge and the executives together and say, we're not standing for it. But if you want to do that, you go ahead and do that. But for me and my house, for me and my church, we're walking a path with God. And you're going to pay for it if you don't follow this path. It sounds real mean. Well, that's exactly what Joshua did to the elders and to the judges and all the leaders. He called a town meeting, baby. And we're coming back to the place that 500 years ago, God said it would happen. And then he died. What? What you cultivate will grow. Joshua was trying to cultivate the people so they would grow the right things. Listen to this. What you cultivate will determine what you reap. You cultivate up a family that don't know God, and you're going to reap a family that don't know God. You're going to reap some grandkids that don't know God. You're going to reap some great-grandkids that don't know God. They're going to walk into school and they're going to be learning things that's going to be ungodly, and it ain't going to really matter much. Why? Because nobody ever taught them. Think about it. Just think about it. What you reap, you will have to live with. And what Joshua would say, choose this day who you will serve. I'm going out with a purpose. I'm going out with a purpose. Can I have Dustin come on up here, buddy? I'm going out with a purpose. I'm going to go out with a purpose. My family's going to stand for something. Even if it costs us something, we're going to stand for something. We need more than just the pastor saying that. We need more than just the elders saying that. We need people. That's why Joshua was calling the people together, to let them know that their foreign gods wasn't going to work. You have to understand that it wasn't just a group of church that he was calling together. He was calling together town after town after town. Everybody come to Shechem. We got some issues we got to deal with. We got a family meeting and God ain't too happy, and I need to lay down the gauntlet before I die. I want to write my own eulogy so somebody ain't speaking for me. Back about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, however long it's been, I had met a guy, I guess it was about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. One of the nicest guys that I ever met in my life. And I mean, one of the nicest guys that I ever met in my life. Every time I was around this guy, he would give me a hug. He didn't really know me 10 years, 12 years ago. But because I was friends with his son, I sort of turned into like a son. Every time I was around him, he would speak good. Never saw him speak evil. But at that time, when I first met him, he didn't know Jesus. Didn't mean he wasn't nice. Didn't mean he didn't still love me. Didn't mean he didn't hug me. But about 5 years, 6 years after knowing him, he come to know the Lord. And he was right there at the brink of kind of where Joshua was. To say there's some things that I want to see with my family before I go out. There's some things that I want to see happen before I go out. Right now I'm with them. But I understand that soon I won't be. And there was a surprise birthday party that happened for this man. His name was Tim Robinson. Maybe some of you know him. And there's a surprise birthday party that they had for him, and they called him over, and he's sitting there at the kitchen table, and they're all around, and they pull out a video camera because everybody in the room knew that this would probably be the last birthday that Tim Robinson ever had. And he sat there, and here's what he said. I don't know word for word, but I know the gist of it. He said, I just thank every one of y'all for doing what you did. And I just want to let you all know that I'm okay. If I don't last another day, if I die tomorrow, I know where I'm going. I know I'm going to be in heaven with God. I know that's where I'm going. The tears are running down his face. And here's what he says. But our church is having revival this week. And all I want is my family to come to revival and my family to get saved. I want everybody in my family to know the Lord. And I'm watching this video. And tears are running down his face. And he was putting out a plea, as Joshua did. As for me and my house, I'm going to serve the Lord. And if you want to know where Tim Robinson, as we said, if you want to know where Tim Robinson is going to be at all next week, it's going to be at the revival. And I wish y'all would come. I want you to come. You know, it wasn't long after that, he never made another birthday. Never made another birthday. But I got a call when he had passed away asking me, Earl, would you please come over and run the video camera? Because we're going to show that DVD part. We're going to show what he says to the people. And as he laid there in a casket, never made one more birthday, with tears running down his eyes, he was choosing to say, God is right, go with him, and I love you so much, but I'm okay. Folks, if you can't walk out of here today, and the first thing ain't on your mind is in the shape that your family's in, to love the Lord so much, to say, I'm going to put it all on the line, and put a plea out. Like Joshua. Joshua was a day of declaration for the people. Then he died. For Joshua, he was making a choice for his own family. Then he died. The people said they would go along, but if you read a lot and you would go on and read in your Bible, they had some issues after Joshua was gone. But the truth is in this moment, he made a declaration of a choice that I'm asking every one of you in here today, not just fathers, mothers, youth, whoever you are. What is your declaration? If God was to come down right now and say, what is number one in your life? Is it the God you serve? Or is this some foreign stuff that you've created? And all you have to do is figure out, where's your time at? Where's your time? What do you spend your time on? That'll tell you what God you serve. Well, I give God just a little bit of time, but I give my work this much time. Then that's your God. I give God just a little bit of my resources, but all the worldly stuff that I want, that's your God. Now, I'm not saying we're all going to do it perfect, but here's what I'm saying. Could you sit with a video camera if God said you had 1 week left and make the same declaration that he called to the town? Or make the same declaration that Tim Robinson made on a video camera and never made another birthday? What would your birthday video look like? What would it look like? And I'm going to leave you with that today. Not that I want you going out on Father's Day and being sad. But I do tell you this. I would rather you go out being sad and make a choice, either to serve him or to not serve him. Choose this day whom you'll serve. And I pray you'll serve God.